marriage, build your home, build your church upon biblical principles. And do you understand that a principle is different from a challenge? Sometimes a message is going to challenge you to do something. I challenge you to do this. A principle is different than a challenge. A principle goes deeper than a challenge. A challenge is going to confront your actions. A principle is going to go deeper and confront your mindset. A challenge is going to affect what you do. But a Bible principle is going to go deeper and affect how you think. Because if you can change how you think, then that is certainly going to change what you do. And think about it. Many Christians can act righteously. Many Christians can act rightly when a spiritual authority is over them and challenges them to do so. But then as soon as the spiritual authority is gone, what do? They stopped acting righteously. So what needs to happen, I'm overjoyed when you act righteously, but what needs to happen is we need to go deeper than just acting righteously because a spiritual authority challenges us to do it. We need to say, I act righteously in my life because I have biblical principles within my own heart. So when obedience is a result of external challenges, that reveals submission. That reveals submission to authority, and that's a good thing. When obedience and when living rightly is based off of external challenges from a spiritual authority, that reveals submission. But when acting righteously and when obedience is based off of biblical principles, based off of internal principles, that reveals character. And we have to go beyond just submission to authority, and we have to have internal, personal character. Okay, I could go on that tangent for a long time. The Bible principle that I want to give you tonight, in order to get you to go deeper and to start thinking biblically, a Bible challenge is saying, do this, Brother Marvin. A Bible principle is saying, think this. And when you read the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus isn't just giving challenges. I think I said this a couple weeks ago when he says, when somebody compels you to go with him a mile, you go with him twain. He wasn't just challenging them in the one-off instance where a Roman soldier comes up and compels you to go with him in a mile. You go with him twain. That's what you do. He's going further than that, and he's saying you need to think this. You need to think that even when an enemy comes and wants to take advantage of you, you show him the love of Christ. That is what I want you to think. He's not just building decisions. He's trying to build a culture. And in order to get you to build that culture, I've been giving you these biblical principles, not just things to do, but things to think. Think this. Where there is no guard, there is no wall. You need to think that. You need to think. What was it last week? I'm not trying to challenge you. I completely forgot it. Negligence is just as destructive as violence. You need to think that, okay? Here's the new one today. Here's the new one that you need to think. Peace must never be purchased when it costs truth. That is a Bible principle. Peace must never be purchased when it costs truth. You can put it this way. Peace must not be an option when it costs truth. You can put it this way. Peace must not be possible when it costs truth. I know the Bible says, if it be possible. And as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. But there has to be a time in your life when peace is not possible. There has to be a time in your life where it does not lie in you to have peace. And that is when peace costs truth. We're not to look to be obnoxious. We're not to look to fight and fight and fight and fight, and that's all we do. We are soldiers of the cross, but we're not looking to be overt it in that way as some churches tend to be. We're not supposed to do that. But when the transaction of peace is being presented to you, and in order to obtain that peace, you need to give truth, I want you to think this. I must never purchase peace when it costs me truth. Ever. So let me first of all show you how this transaction presented itself in Hezekiah's life. I want to show you how covertly it presented itself. I want to show you how innocently this transaction presented itself to Hezekiah. And then I'm going to show you all the stuff that happened, all the destruction that came from him making this purchase. And then I want to show you how it comes to you and me still today, this transaction. But it's a transaction that must never take place. Peace must never be purchased when it costs truth. So let's go ahead into the first part. Hezekiah becomes king when he's 25 years old. And suffice it to say, he inherits a mess of a kingdom. There's idolatry all throughout the land. People are even worshiping the brazen serpent that Moses lifted up in the wilderness. The Philistines are invading. The northern kingdom of Israel is right now under heavy attack from the Assyrians, who's like the superpower right now. And Hezekiah knows, as this new 25-year-old king, he knows if the northern kingdom falls, it's only going to be a matter of time before Assyria starts knocking on my door. So right away, he wastes no time. If you read in 2 Chronicles, and if you read in 2 Kings, and if you read in Isaiah, he starts right away fighting for great change in the land. He fought against the idolaters. He breaks down their images. He cuts down their groves. He tears down their high places. He even destroyed the brazen serpent. He called it Nehushtan, some brass thing. You have turned this into some brass thing. It doesn't mean anything. It symbolized something, but now you are worshiping the symbol more than the symbolized. And when you worship the symbol more than the symbolized, you make the symbolized of none effect. So let's just get away with it. He fought against the Assyrians. He refused to send them the tribute money that the Assyrians were putting on all the people. He refused to send it. He fought against the Philistines. He chased them all the way back to Gaza. And that was just within the first 4 years of his reign. Great spiritual progress is being made, but no great spiritual progress can be made without great physical conflict. And I want you to remember that. No great spiritual progress can be made without great physical conflict, because wherever the devil sees any spiritual progress, let alone great spiritual progress, wherever he sees any spiritual progress, he's going to take notice of that. He's going to take notice of it, and he's going to do everything he can to stop it. Listen, when your family starts making spiritual progress, and when you in your own life start making spiritual progress, and when your marriage starts making spiritual progress, and when your business starts making spiritual progress, and when your church starts making spiritual progress, the devil notices it and he's coming. In Hezekiah's 6th year as king, the northern kingdom falls. So he knows now, only a matter of time before Assyria starts coming for the southern kingdom of Judah. And sure enough, in the 14th year of his reign, so it took some time, but in the 14th year of his reign, Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, invades Judah and conquers all of the outlying cities around Jerusalem. And when that happens, Hezekiah doesn't handle it very well. So he's 39 years old at the time. He doesn't handle it very well. Instead of taking a stand, he apologizes to Sennacherib for withholding the tribute money. And he says, I'll make you a deal. Catch it? I'll make you a deal. Let's discuss terms of peace. And Hezekiah says this to Sennacherib, you leave us alone, you go back to where you belong, and I'll pay the tribute money. And Sennacherib says, okay, I want 300 talents of silver, and I want 30 talents of gold. Now, those numbers mean nothing to us. We don't know talents or anything. That was a heavy tribute. And let me show you how heavy it was. In order for Hezekiah to pay that tribute one time, he had to take all of the silver from the temple. He had to take all of the silver from the palace treasury. And he had to strip all of the gold from the doors and the pillars of the temple in order to pay it. That's a heavy tribute. Now, this isn't even the part of Hezekiah's story that I want to focus on here. But don't you see, already Hezekiah is being put in a position where peace with the enemy is going to cost him what he knows he should not do, but he still does it. At that point, peace with Assyria should not have been possible. At that point, when he realized, I would need to deface the house of God and completely drain my resources to pay this tribute, at that point, it should not have lied in him. But he still did it. Peace must never be purchased when it costs the truth. He should have stood up just like David and said, who are these uncircumcised heathen who are coming across the armies of the living God? But he didn't do that. He bought peace anyway. And so Sennacherib took Hezekiah's payment, and he was happy with it, and he skipped merrily back to Assyria, and Hezekiah never heard from him again. No. As soon as Sennacherib saw that Hezekiah was okay with giving a little, Sennacherib he said, I'm going to come back for much now. Church, do you want to know a big reason why you should never purchase peace at the cost of truth? The enemy is never satisfied with it. Ever satisfied with it. The enemy hates truth. It's like going to a vendor who hates American currency and buying something with American currency and expecting him to be happy. The enemy hates truth. But as soon as the devil sees that you're willing to give up some, he's going to be coming back for more. And Assyria came back for more, and you can read chapter 18 and 19 of 2 Kings. That tells of Assyria's besiegement on Jerusalem. But we already paid you. And they besiege him again, and he sends a messenger named Rabshakeh, who speaks horribly blasphemous things in the ears of everybody in Jerusalem. And you'll read about Hezekiah's prayer to God, and you'll read that God hears Hezekiah's prayer, and then you'll read this: an angel of the Lord in one night, in an answer to Hezekiah's prayer, kills 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. One night. And it was the angel of the Lord, by the way, that was Jesus. One Jesus against an innumerable army of Assyrians, and he wipes out 185,000 in a night. It's certainly been a full 14 years as king. 14 years marked by great victory, but 14 years marked by great conflict. There can be no victory without conflict, though. Hezekiah is seeing the benefits of standing according to the truth, but he's also growing weary. In fact, it gets to a point right after this victory that Hezekiah becomes sick. Now, perhaps at the first part, he thinks it's just fatigue, the inevitable result of 14 years of fighting. The inevitable, result of 14 years of leading a nation. You've seen what our presidents look like after 8 years. No comment. I know what you're thinking. No comment. He's only 39 years old. He's still got half of his life to live. He's going to take a few days to recover, and then he'll get right back to it. But then can you imagine the shock that comes over this young 39-year-old king? 2 Kings chapter 20, Brother Lewis. Can you imagine the shock that comes over this young king when Isaiah says, "Set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live"? Look in chapter 20, verse 2. Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto the Lord, saying, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee in what? Truth, and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. Lord, I don't want to die. Lord, do you want me to die? I'm only 39 years old. There's still so much left to do. Assyria is going to be back, and who's going to protect Jerusalem? We've been seeing such great progress. I know I haven't been perfect, but the idols are gone, and the groves and the high places are gone, and the Philistines have been banished, and this great victory has just been won. I'm asking you to remember how I have done what you have told me to do, and I've stood where you've told me to stand, and I've preached what you've told me to preach to the people, and I've lived and I've fought and I've stood on the truth. I'm just asking you to remember that before you take me home. And God hears his prayer and grants him 15 more years. Okay, 15 more years to reign. 15 more years to fight. 15 more years to stand on the truth. 15 more years to be attacked by the devil. 15 more years for Satan to launch attacks. Ever since that 25-year-old king took the throne and started making all of those religious reforms, Satan wanted that young man. Even after Satan got to strip the temple of gold and silver, he wanted more. Satan was not going to be happy until Hezekiah and every single Jew with messianic blood running in his veins was dead. That's what he wanted. His last tactic to destroy Hezekiah didn't work. His last tactic was brute force. Something's happening over there. Brute force is happening over there. You hear that? His last tactic is the Assyrian sword. But it didn't work. Through the help of the Lord, Hezekiah saw victory over that. But it didn't change the fact that Satan still wanted to bring Hezekiah down. Now, Satan couldn't kill him. Because God had promised him 15 years. Satan can't get around that. So I can't kill him. God's already promised him 15 years, but maybe I can get to him another way. Now the sword didn't work last time. And what we read, do you remember what we read? Is Satan putting down his sword, and instead he starts wrapping a gift. He starts making a present. See, when he came after Hezekiah with brutality, Hezekiah wouldn't let him in. So now Satan takes off his armor of brutality and he dresses up in his suit of diplomacy. And he comes to Hezekiah again. For years, look in verse 12 and 13 of chapter 20. At that time, Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that he had been sick, and Hezekiah hearkened unto them. You need to understand. For years, Satan used the Assyrians to beat on, I'm not in the pulpit anymore, to beat on Jerusalem's doors with the sword, and Hezekiah never let them in. But in one day, Satan used Babylon to lightly knock on Jerusalem with a present. And Hezekiah lets them in with a smile. 14 years Hezekiah fought for the truth. And he stood against the enemy. 14 years he refused to let his guard down. 14 years, he protected what God had told him to protect. And 14 years, Hezekiah saw the importance of being separate from the world. And I can imagine Hezekiah sitting on his throne with this new 15-year lease on life. That's even more than he had to begin, than he's come so far. He's only come 14 years. Now he's got 15. Think about how much more can be done. Think of how much more needs to be done. But then a messenger runs in from the back and says, "King, there are Babylonian soldiers coming towards the palace." The Babylonians are the enemy. The Babylonians are the heathen. The Babylonians have less in common with the Jews than a chimpanzee has with a peach. No clue. I don't know. Babylon is not Judah's friend. Babylon is not Judah's ally. Babylon is the enemy. Now, I may be wrong, but I would venture to say that Hezekiah's first thought when he sees people coming up with a Babylonian flag, I would venture to say his first thought is, they're coming to wage war. Here we go. I got 15 more years of my life, and apparently we're just going to start it off with conflict all over again. But no. he finds out they're not coming to wage war. They're not coming to make war. They're coming to make peace. And Isaiah 39:2, which is the parallel passage of this, says Hezekiah was glad of them. Oh, it's just so kind of y'all to be here. I'm just so thankful for this banana bread. Why don't you come in and see my kingdom? Would you like to see my armory? And Hezekiah showed them all. He was from the southern kingdom, guys. Give us a break. When Assyria came to the northern kingdom, you guys, we're in danger. Okay. It's a northern joke. You can laugh. Goodness. Hezekiah shows them everything. There's nothing in his house nor in all his dominion that Hezekiah showed him not. I just have a question. Hezekiah, what are you doing? You are giving the enemy access to everything that you have fought to protect for 14 years. Why in the world would Hezekiah do that? And I know the answer. He was seeking to impress Babylon to get them to ally with him against Assyria. Study the scriptures. God had told them before they ever came into the promised land, you are not to make covenants and you are not to make alliances with the heathen nations. They're not to live in your country. You are not to rely on their strength. You are not to entertain their military strategies. You are not to entertain their religions. You are not to entertain their philosophies. I am the Lord your God. And by the way, didn't God just prove to Hezekiah he didn't need alliances to beat Assyria? One angel, 185,000 in a night. God just proved that to him. The whole message hinges on this truth right here. When Assyria attacked Judah, Hezekiah stood and guarded the truth with everything he had. But when Babylon offered terms of peace, Hezekiah parted with that same truth that he had guarded for so long. And Isaiah called him out on it. He said, you've showed them everything. One day they're going to come and take everything from you. You think that purchasing peace with Babylon is going to cause them to be on your side. Actually, you have only whetted their appetite to come and take everything that you have. Now, God has promised you 15 years, so it won't be during your lifetime. But when your sons are born, and when your children grow up, of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away. And Hezekiah answered, good. Is it not good if peace and truth be in my days? What do you mean good? Hezekiah, your sons are going to be taken captive, but I'll have peace and truth in my days. Hezekiah, your kingdom is going to be ransacked. Nothing is going to be left, but I'll have peace and truth in my days. Hezekiah, your people are going to be left destitute, and women are going to be ravaged, and kids are going to be grabbed by their heels and smashed up against the rocks. That's what the Babylonians did. But I'll have peace and truth in my days. Hezekiah, you say that you'll have peace and truth. You say that you're going to have peace and truth. How do you figure? Now follow this argument with me. The reason you had peace in the first 14 years of your reign, as far as spiritual peace is concerned, the only reason you had that spiritual peace in the first 14 years of your reign is because you stood on the truth. And when you made your argument to God to give you more time, your argument was, I have stood on the truth. But now you're under the impression that you're going to be able to have peace with Babylon and the truth of God at the same time. But the only reason you have peace with Babylon right now is because you gave up the truth to have it. The truth is you don't need alliances. The truth is you should never have alliances. The truth is that God fights your battles. The truth is that Babylon never should have even been let into the city, let alone see your inner workings. You cannot have peace and truth in your days when the only way to obtain that peace is by giving up the truth. Now, I can appreciate that you're tired, Hezekiah. I can appreciate that you fought for so long. And I can appreciate that if it be possible, we are supposed to live at peace with all men. We don't look to fight for the sake of fighting. But truth is an area where we always fight. No matter how tired we are, no matter how difficult it may be, and no matter how appealing the alternative may be. Truth is an area that we always fight. We are commanded to buy the truth and sell it not even for peace. Peace must never be purchased when it costs truth. And there's 3 lessons that I want you to hear from this story. I want you to get these. Lesson number 1. When you purchase peace with truth, you can no longer claim to possess both. When you purchase peace with truth, you can no longer claim to possess both. If you go up to a dealership and you purchase a truck for $80,000, you cannot get upset at the bank when the $80,000 is no longer in your account. You used it to purchase the truck. So if you are going to purchase peace with truth, you can't claim to have both anymore. Lesson number 2, when you purchase peace with truth, the peace that you now possess will not last long. The peace that you now possess will not last long because the enemy is not looking for peace. The enemy is looking for blood. The enemy is not looking for your hand. The enemy is looking for your life. However, Satan will happily take a handhold. But that handhold will become a foothold. And that foothold will become a chokehold one day. Lesson number 3. When this generation purchases peace with truth, the next generation will possess neither. Lesson number 1. When you purchase peace with truth, you can no longer claim to have both. And when you purchase peace with truth, you're not going to have that peace for very long. And when this generation purchases peace with truth, the next generation won't possess either. It was all good in Hezekiah's eyes that in his days, he was going to have peace and truth, supposedly. But his son's name is Manasseh. And I want you to read chapter 21 about what Manasseh did. You want to see just a little bit? Look in verse 3. We'll start in verse 2. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. Verse 3. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed. Everything Hezekiah did, Manasseh undid. Look in verse 9. They hearkened not, and Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than did the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the children of Israel. Manasseh led the Israelites to do more wickedness than the Canaanites. Verse 16. Moreover, Manasseh shed innocent blood very much. Congratulations, Hezekiah, you obtained peace in your days, but it cost you the truth that you had fought for so long. Hezekiah parted with the truth, not because the enemy came with a sword, but because the enemy came with a gift. The transaction did not present itself in war. It presented itself with a smile. Now notice with me how that same transaction can come up in our life. Consider your marriage. I could give so many illustrations. I'll just give a few applications here. Consider your marriage. You are supposed to build that relationship upon the truth, are you not? When you do that, you suffer multiple attacks. You suffer multiple attacks at the hand of Satan to get you to quit living according to the truth. Maybe he attacks your health, or he brings rough patches in your marriage, or there's heartaches and headaches. Maybe there's a loss of a child or a miscarriage, or family anger at your decisions to live for Christ as a couple. Satan has thrown attack after attack after attack at your marriage to get you to quit living according to the truth. But you've relied on Jesus and he's seen you through. However, that doesn't stop Satan. He's not going to say, oh, well, no getting that couple. But the violent attacks aren't working. They're not shaking you. So now he comes with a gift. A job offer. A job offer that will increase your salary. And you know what? Finances have been tough recently. A job offer that will move you to a beautiful area. And where you're at isn't so much to write home about. And it'll move you closer to family, and your spouse has been complaining recently about being far from family. And you've been frustrated with the daily grind where you are, and this move would free you from a lot of that stress. Now, there's only one catch. There's no church. There's no church where you're going. No good church. You've done your research, and there's one there that I could make it work. The devil could never get you out of church before. He's tried for years, but now he's got you thinking about it because he comes with a gift. Or maybe he brings the gift of a promotion. It's the raise that you need. Because you and your spouse have been fighting a lot about the bills. And the schedule is better than what you have now. And your marriage has been stressed lately because you're not able to see as much of each other as you'd like. And that promotion would allow you to spend more time. You could take that second honeymoon. But there's a catch. You got to work on church days. Or here's the catch. It's going to put you next to somebody of the opposite gender who's been a little bit too friendly to you recently. And it's going to put you working right next to him. Or that promotion is going to require you not to keep your mouth shut, but to openly support sinful groups. That's the catch. Now, Satan could never get you to miss church before. He's tried. He could never get you alone with the opposite gender before. He's tried. He could never get you to openly support sinful groups before. He's tried. But now he's got you thinking about it because he's bringing a gift with him. And that gift would bring financial peace, and it would bring family peace, and it would bring career peace, and it would solve a lot of issues in my life. But at what cost, sir? And at what cost, ma'am? Peace must never be purchased when it costs the truth. Well, Pastor, how do you know that this gift isn't of the Lord? If it costs you truth, it's not of the Lord. Period. If it costs you truth, it's not of the Lord. Well, then why would God let this happen? You can read in 2 Chronicles 32:31, where he says, Hezekiah did wonderfully in everything, but in the matter of the ambassadors of Babylon, God left him to see what was in his heart. Consider your family. For years you've fought for the truth. For years you've told your kids, we have these dress standards, and we have these music standards, and we have these TV and movie guidelines. We're not going to watch that filth. I understand it's only PG, but kids, what is PG today was rated R back then. So I know that about 5 years ago I said PG's good as long as we're there. PG ain't good anymore. And you fought for that, and you say, nope, no internet access. You don't need it. You don't need it. No internet access. For years you fought to protect your family, but now your kids are growing up and they're starting to ask, why can't we watch that? They do. And why can't we have that? My friend does. And why can't we go there? My friends do. And why can't I have a phone? Everyone else my age does. And why is this a rule? And why do we do this? And why can't we do that? And it's constant, all these questions and all this bickering and all this answering. And fathers and mothers all over the world are starting to think, this would all go away if I just let up a little bit. My daughter keeps bothering me about the dress standards, so you know what? Okay, I'll let up a little bit. and my spouse keeps questioning this rule, fine. I guess it's not that important to go to church every single time. I guess we can miss every now and then. And my son just got a sports scholarship. Okay, I guess Bible college isn't that important. You fought for it for 18 years, and now Junior has a sports scholarship to secular university, and I guess Bible college I guess it's not that important anymore. Our extended family keeps getting angry at us. Fine. We'll go to the drunken holiday party this year. Fine, we're going to go. For years you've said, no, never, 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 never. Fine. And the same truth that you fought for so long is given away just so you could have some peace. And the same enemy that you would never give access to your home now has access to everything that you have fought to protect for so long. Peace must never be purchased when it costs the truth. Let your kids throw a fit about their clothes. Let them throw a fit about it. I know it's not easy. I know it's not fun. But think this. I cannot have peace when it costs truth. I must never purchase peace when it costs truth. Let your son whine that you don't let him pursue his dreams of being a star or being rich or being in a relationship when he's in high school. Let him whine all he wants. I know you don't like those conversations. I know he doesn't see it all right now. I know they don't see it all right now. But you need to think this. I must never give up the truth just so I can have peace. And let your spouse argue with you about tithing. Well, I just don't see why we should. Don't you see all these bills and these bills, these bills, these bills? And let your spouse argue with you about, we're serving so much. And let them argue with you about, I don't think we should spank the kids. And let them argue with you about, all these Bible changes are happening in our home, and I think that church is controlling you. And let them fight you about the TV rules. Hun, not watching that anymore. Well, where did this come from? Came from the book. Came from the book. We're not watching it anymore. Well, let them fight. Let them fight about centering your family around God's house. I know that just a step back would make things so much easier, but you need to think this. Peace must never be purchased when it costs the truth. Consider your own personal life. Maybe you're single. And you've fought the truth for a long time now, but now you have a love interest. What an incredible gift is being presented to you. The possibility of companionship, the possibility of togetherness. That's a wonderful gift being presented to you. And for a while, you believe it's of the Lord. Otherwise, you never would have even considered it. But now that other person is saying, I want to be together, but I'm not going to that kind of church. I want to be together, but I'm not changing the Bible version I use. Now look, are there worse things? Let me be very careful here. Let me be very, very careful here. You get this idea in your mind, is it really that big of a deal? I mean, at least we're not fighting about this, and at least we're not fighting about that. I mean, is that really? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Marriage is hard enough on its own. You are different enough. You're different enough. You don't need to add arguing about the Bible version that you use. You don't need to add arguing what church you're going to go to. You don't need to add that. Trust me, you don't. She says, I want to be together, but we're not disciplining our kids that way. I want to be together, but I don't want to wait until marriage until we're intimate. And it's causing conflict between you, and here's the hard part. It's causing conflict between you and someone you love. Someone you love. And if you just back off the truth, everything would be better. Or maybe your boss keeps giving you trouble about not working on church nights. And he'd lay off if you gave in. Or your professor keeps pressuring you into participating in this project that supports sin, and you know he can fail you if he wants. Or people very close to you are threatening to leave you because they don't agree with the way that you're living for God. Or you could make a lot more money if you stop being so involved in church. So much stress and conflict in your life would just go away if you would just take a step back. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. And don't you think it. Think this. Peace must never be purchased when it costs truth. I can apply this in so many ways. What about church? What about churches when people start coming up and saying, hey, I got a lot of money to give to this building program, but you're going to back off preaching about that? You would be surprised how many times that's happened. You'd be surprised how many people, you said something the other day. And and they kind of skirt around it. But here's what they're saying. If you want me to stay, you back off. Let me tell you something. Okay? We all have a vote in this. Okay? We all have a vote in this. I have one vote as much as you do. I am no higher than you in that way. But when it comes to this, right here, when it comes to this, you got no vote. You've got absolutely no vote. Well, I'm going to pull my tithe. I'm not counting on your tithe. I'm counting on Jesus Christ. You're going to scare me with that. When you purchase peace with truth in your personal life, your marriage, your home, your family, your church, you need to understand, once you do that, you can't claim to possess both anymore. You can try all you want. Oh, we're the church of Christ. If Paul the Apostle walked into some of these churches, what do you think that man would do? And when you do that, the peace that you come to possess will not last long. And your kids that come after you won't possess either. So you need to think this. In every decision that comes up, you need to think this. Will it cost me truth? If so, no deal. Peace must never be purchased when it costs truth. It would have been better for Hezekiah to spend every day of his remaining 15 years fighting for truth than living in peace with Babylon. He obtained 15 years of peace with Babylon. His kids obtained a lifetime of war and lies because of it. Church, we will either pay now or our kids will pay later. We will either pay now or our kids will pay later. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. That might be our principle for next week. Not everything has to be a fight. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men, but determine in your mind when that peace is going to cost me truth, it doesn't lie in me. When that peace is going to cost me truth, it's not possible. I will not purchase peace at the cost of truth. What does that mean? It means that your life will be filled with great physical conflict. It means that your life will be filled with great physical conflict, but it will also mean your life will be filled with great spiritual progress. You can't afford peace when it costs truth. Heavenly Father, I ask that you would please bless us tonight and understand this principle and apply it to our lives now. Let families make decisions and let families make changes. Lord, a change in their mindset, a change in their thinking. Let's keep our heads bowed and our eyes closed. You say, I know for sure that I'm saved. Pastor, would you raise your hand? I know Jesus as my Savior for 100%. I know that I'm going to heaven. God bless you. You may put your hands down. Pastor, I do not know. I don't know that I'm going to heaven. Would you pray for me? Would you pray for me? Looks like mostly all home crowd tonight. If the Lord spoke to you, would you please come? Would you take some time where you are? Would you take some time where you are? Men, maybe we need to pray one with another. It's a battle, isn't it? Standing and fighting for the truth. It can get tiring. Oh, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Your kids might not understand it, but they'll thank you for you. They'll thank you for it someday. Ladies, maybe you need to pray with your husband. Kids, maybe you need to come forward. Make sure that you stay submissive and obedient. Let's stand one with another. Ladies, you go ahead and play. Take time with the Lord as you... a lot of bad decisions would be avoided if you had this deal breaker in your mind. If it's going to cost me truth, deal breaker. We're a week away from our marriage. We're a week away. But you found out something's going to cost you truth, deal breaker. Do you know what I ask every single person I've married? That came out wrong. Every single person. Oh, goodness. Every single person that I have performed, this is just not, that I have officiated their marriage. In a way, I'm joking, but in a way, I'm not. I ask both of them every morning, are you sure? Because there's still time to back out. I ask all of them that same thing. Are you sure? Because there's still time to back out. None of them have taken me up on my offer yet. Church, I love you. I want you to base your life and your family and this church and your home on Bible principles. It takes more than just doing. It takes thinking. It takes a mindset. And it's a constant battle. And you don't have the strength for it. The Bible says we're supposed to be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. And even when you are at your weakest, His strength has not waned in any way. So make sure you rely on Him. Miss Emily's birthday is coming up on Tuesday. And the ladies got together and they wanted to get her a gift. So Miss Emily, could we give this to you on behalf of the church ladies? And yep, you have to come up here. You're going to have to come up. And we're going to have Miss Emily sing happy birthday to herself. Happy birthday, Miss Emily. Could you give her a hand? She's doing a wonderful job here. Greet somebody that you do not know that well. Come back on Wednesday. Lord willing, we're going to be continuing our Defense Against Offense series. So make sure you come back on Wednesday at 7:15. It's going to be raining all throughout the week. Even if it's raining on Saturday, come. We have visits to make. We have prayer that we can do and other things that we can do. Let's go ahead and sing Christ is All I Need. Remember that we have choir practice. And Brother Danny, do you just want to have it here with only the choir loft members, or do you want to go over there and organize everything first? Stay here. Okay. I don't know what he was doing there. Okay, we're going to stay here. So everybody, if your name is on that list of the choir loft members, please come up and see Brother Danny right afterwards. And then...
And if they've told me that there will be a substitute, also be here.
And a substitute. So just if you're in the choir, be here. And then after that, gentlemen, we have an ushers meeting. So make sure that you go to that. Go ahead, Miss Alyssa. Greet someone you don't know that well. Fellowship one with another. Christ is all.
Let's pray. Dear Jesus, we thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for our pastor preaching us the truth, Lord, and the principles that he's been going over these past few Sunday nights. Pray that you would just help us to apply it to our lives, Lord, and areas that we're lacking. Pray that we would step it up, Lord, and I pray that you would just help us to learn to buy the truth and sell it not. Pray that you just be with us this week, keep us safe throughout it, and give us a blessing, Lord. Help us to get back here on Wednesday safely, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
So we're not going to go over one song.
Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child, and forever I am. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child, and forever I am.
Redeemed and so happy in Jesus, no language my rapture can tell. I know that the light of His presence with me doth continually dwell.
Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child, and forever I am.